This house over here on this corner, I helped build. And while we were building it, that home was down on the corner where the Arctic Circle is.
This house was?
This home right there was built on the corner where Arctic Circle was. And I was working for Archie Frame, and Ivan and Leon and I and Brother Frame was working, putting in the foundation. And he just got we'd been mixing the cement in a box up until then, by hand, turning it over. And he bought a big cement mixer. It was a great big circle thing. It wasn't like these nowadays that they have, but you'd mix it and then you'd put a chute inside of it to catch the cement. And I don't know what I done, but anyway, the shaft through that big thing had a set screw on it. And I was wearing a vest. It was kind of chiselly early in the spring. And I reached over and that set screw caught my vest right under my arm and started to twisting. Twisted and twisted all my clothes off. Started to take my tide. Right here I got a scar on my belly where it started to tear my hide, and it stopped. To this day, nobody knows what stopped that thing from going. That would go, if it wasn't anyone around it, it'd go forever and never stop. No one was around it. Brother Frame and Ivan and Leon was up clear to the other end of it, and with a wheelbarrow of cement, and I was just loading up. And I got caught into that thing, and when that started to tear my hide, it stopped. Tell me why.
Whose house is
I don't like it. It wasn't your day yet.
It was right, it wasn't my day.
Who did you build the house for?
That was Bishop Samuel Lindsay's. That's the home that all the Lindsays was raised in. Richard and Kenneth.
That's Bruce Lindsay on Channel 5's father. You know, Richard, who's in the church.
So Bruce was raised in that house?
No, that's
No,
his,
Bruce.
dad.
that's his grandma and grandpa's
Bruce's
home.
dad was raised in that home.
That was, I remember when that was down where the Arctic Circle is, and I was down there that I went over there, was out playing ball over at Plymouth School, and Kenny Lindsay told me to come over to the house. He had something he wanted to give me. I went over there and he gave me a first baseman.
Yeah, that old home. I can see part of my clothing in that foundation now.
That was built about when?
That was built in about 1916.
It's pretty good shape. Whatever happened to Edgar Lindsay's home? Was that just torn down, or was that moved? Let's go.
Edgar's home's torn down. That's where the shopping center
I know,
was.
but I wonder whether they moved the home. Like,
I don't know. She bought a home right up this street here. His wife until she died. Here, no.
And I said,
There was a home here where this building is here. This was Chester Cook's home on this corner. Here.
We're on
7-Eleven
48
was.
South.
Right in here was the
Zelda
Exton's
got all
home.
your stuff?
yeah,
Does she?
Teresa came and
The
got
who
it.
home?
And next Exton, their name was Exton, and that was Laurie Barker's husband's father and mother.
Dan Barker's home was right there on that corner where the 7-Eleven is. That's where I thought you meant we were going to turn, to Dan.
Now, right in here was two big homes of Hiram, Heber Benyon. That's Helen Barker's father. He was the bishop of the Taylorsville ward for 20-something years.
Who was Helen Barker, Sean? Come on, don't you remember Helen Barker? Who's Fred Barker?
right here was two big homes,
Right here.
Right here.
right down in here. Heber and his family lived down, and he had one monster of a yard, a great big barn. Oh, it was a beautiful thing. Then there was a double-story building on this corner here. And the Japs, later, the Japs farmed all of this ground down in here. I guess there was 80 acres or more. And they lived in this big home here. My brother got real acquainted with them. He liked them, and they liked him. And I went with him lots of times up to them and visited them after we got through working. Now, when you get right to the top of the hill here, stop.
Okay. I pull in the
Right
parking
here.
lot.
Right here. No, don't go down in. Don't go in. Right here is where I was born. The home sit right in here. I don't even remember what kind of a home it was. I was about 5 years of age when we moved from here down into the home that's 1/2 a mile straight west east of here. We'll show you that as we go around the block.
Oh, how long was this home? How did you get into this home? Was this road wasn't
Oh,
here?
no, we had to come
Up off of 22.
lane off of 2200 west.
And we're now on what
Where's the
what
canal?
west are we on now?
The canal winds around and we cross it down here just before we get to 41st.
What west are we on now?
Huh?
What west are we on now?
This is
27
2700 west.
2700 west.
This used to be what we used to call the pole line. These big poles were here. These two big lines and used to be the power line. The Taylorsville power line owned these two big electric pole lines here. And down between these two was a ditch.
Was that?
And it was as
This
wide
building.
almost as this street. A great big washed gully down in there. You could hide all these homes in it. And the water went down this ditch to Gallinat that lived on the corner down here below where we farmed.
I remember Gallinat.
I remember him.
I remember him. He lived down here on the.
Right down on the corner. And all this from here was Henry Harker's farm, and Father farmed it was all. Father never. Home was a dug well where they got their water. That's all I remember was that dug well. Don't remember anything about the home. The trees around it, and there used to be, when they put this blacktop in here, they tore the old poplar tree out that was burnt. And it stood there and they just took it down here a year ago. That was in front of the old home.
So that's you're just talking about 100, just a few yards off of the highway here then, from this road, from the pole line.
I used to have to go up here, our water up here cleared up to 3200 west, and then up to 4700 west to turn the water down to get our water in here.
Irrigation water.
Yes.
Where did you have to go to get your water, drinking water?
I'll show you that when we get around to it.
Did you say you had a well there?
Here
Yeah.
was a dug well. Had a rope down and you let a bucket down in it. Went down in about 20 or 25 feet of the ground.
Well, now where do I go?
Down here.
Just exactly here. I'm not acquainted too much up here whether this is the last of the farm or whether this goes into the old Harker. But I think it goes down into here, the old Harker farm.
Yeah. Where did the Ruffs live?
Down on the corner.
They lived down this way.
Now that canal sees under here. Right here.
Oh, there it is, right there. Oh, I thought your home was closer to the canal than that.
Well, our home down there's right on the canal.
the one that you moved. You moved there when you was 5 years
About
old.
5 years of age. All I remember was I can remember riding on the hay rack with the furniture from that old home down to the. I remember that ride. Gal and Natch lived right in there.
Oh, the other Rupp home was up in this area someplace, wasn't it?
No,
Where
no.
Mike Rupp lived, and
Oh, yeah, yes, where Mike lived. That's right on this side of the highway here.
yeah, I remember delivering the papers there. When I was a
That
kid.
used to be right in there.
Yeah.
And this is
Now
4700
turn
south.
south right here again.
We're
Here's where
turning.
the old. Now I told you that Chester Cook's home was on the corner up above. The other home was right here, and this was Rupp's.
Right here on this
John
corner.
Rupp's.
This is 2200 west and 4700 south.
John Rupp lived here, and that's where Ben Rupp and
How about, stop here a minute, Darren. How about these old trees right back in there? Are they still part of the...
I imagine that's why. Now Ivan lives in this home, and he married one of the Rupp girls,
Ivan Deverall?
Ivan Deborah.
They moved this house down.
They moved it down.
Yeah.
The Rupp home or this
Yeah.
home here?
Yeah, this tore down. The home was right out in here.
Okay.
Now go up and then stop just across the railroad, across the canal up. That picture that's on the wall of us digging beets is right out in here.
On this side.
Right out in here
On
where
the east
school
side.
is.
Oh.
Taylorsville School is sitting right in the middle of the field where we were getting the beets up. This was all Dave Barker's farm.
Who? Dave.
Dave was dad.
Dave.
Sean, that's where you played soccer, where Grandpa dug sugar
Where
beets.
Ben was, Nett's family was raised right back there.
Across this canal
Now stop
here,
right
Darren.
here.
Stop.
This is the home right here that I was brought up and raised in. And how in the devil our whole family was raised in, I don't know. All there is into that house is the kitchen on this side, a living room here that we was never allowed to go in, only on special occasions. The bedroom is back in that corner, and in the corner of the bedroom was a bed that Linwood and Harv and I slept in. I don't know where Beer and all those other kids slept. I don't know. But this is the old farm that we raised and spent our lives in. We used to get our water for washing and that out of the canal. There was no well here. There's no water to get here. And the farm here, it only goes across the canal and then goes back again. This house that Cliff built is right in the corner of the old farm that Henry Harker lived. Then it goes up west to the new I-15, and then north down to, I'll show you as we go back down there, and then out to 2200 west, where we just came from.
Look at that.
And we used to get this. We was living here when
Can you take
Henry
that?
Harker came and said we had to move because Bruce and Horace Harker wanted the farm to live on and raise there and take care of the farm. So Horace Harker lived in it for a while, and then Bruce came here, and this is where Bruce died. That's Cliff's father and
Cliff's
mother.
father.
And Cliff, he just died a while ago. And this is his wife that lives in this home over here. Now, we used to have to haul our water 1.5 miles north of here in a wagon, 3 barrels at a time. We'd go down and fill the water. I think we better go down around and show you where it was and come up and show you the things.
Want to turn around
Grandpa?
No, not yet.
Grandpa?
Across the road is where the Barker homes was on the other side of the canal. These were the only homes that was on the street. Was the one up there of Chester Cook's, the one this one where we lived, Uncle Dave Barker's across to here, and Rupp's down on the corner. That was the 4 homes that was on this street. And I used to have to herd cows. After school, we'd come and take our cows and bring them out and take them along this street here up to that corner, and we'd go as far up as where Dan's Market is, or up as far under the top of the hill, and that's as far as we'd get our cows, and we'd let it feed them along the street, and then turn them back and back them down by time to bring them in and milk them and take care of the chores. Father used to take care of the horses. We kids used to take care of the chores, other chores. I had to milk the cow, tend to the chickens, and that is Harv and Linwood and I. And that barn wasn't there. That barn was built by Bruce and Harkers. The only thing that was in there was a straw shed. When we thrashed the grain, back of where that farm was where Father would stack his hay. He used to have 3 and 4 great big stacks that were stacked 30 and 40, 50 feet high. And then beyond that's where he'd stack his grain. And then when they'd thrash it, it'd blow the straw over this side and cover up an old shed that he put willows on top to keep the straw from going through, to make a shed for the cows and that to go in. And that was the cow shed and the horse shed.
What's this little thing right here?
Tractor?
That little was a milk. That's a milk house that our horse built. He had cows and he milked them, and that's where they had to keep the milk cool. There's a cooler in there, the water.
We better come down and get a picture of this place.
You're right.
But it hasn't changed.
This milk house was that little shed right there by that gate was the milk house you're talking about?
Yes.
What was this other one off here to the back, right by the canal?
Well,
That's been
something
added.
they built. Right back where this little milk house was what we called our granary and the buggy house. There was a shed there that was open on the north and closed on the east and the west and the south. And we used to put our buggies in there. Father had a big surrey, what it used to be one of the most up-to-date things in the country, and 2 black horses that he used to dress up and put his choice harness on them, and oh, was they spick and span. And I can remember him taking us for a ride clear up to over through and up Little Cottonwood Canyon up Creek Road. Uncle George Thaxton lived way up at the mouth of the canyon when we took a ride up to Uncle George's home in that surrey, and those 2 pretty horses. Pete and Pet was the name of the horses.
Who?
Pete and Pet.
Pete and Pet.
Pete was a boy and Pet was a girl.
Well,
Here's where we used to have our fun. On this canal, it used to freeze over in the winter. The only fun that we ever had, we had skates that we'd fit on our shoes, and that's where we used to, right above here a little ways, there was an open place, and that'd freeze over in the winter, and that's where we used to play hockey and do our skating. We've skated on this canal clear up to where it falls down off into the river up at where Bringers lived, and down this canal as far as where it crosses 3200 west.
You used
There's
to
another
freeze?
story about that when we get around. Let's go around and go down on the freeway.
Well, you said they didn't let the water out of the canal then in the wintertime, huh?
Well, there was enough water in it. They'd take the water out, but there was enough water in it that it would freeze over.
now tell them what they used to do with the water.
What do you mean? You mean
Freeze it And
You know that little bench that we've got down in my home there, under the patio, that little red bench?
Mm-hmm.
That's the bench that we used to have sitting on the porch with the wash basin with a cup, a dipper and a bucket. That dipper hung on the bucket to get our drinking water when we wanted to drink. We'd get the water out of the barrel of water that was in the wagon. And if it was froze over, we'd have to chisel it off through the ice to get the water out of it. Water would freeze on the porch where it used to be.
All you have to do is turn a fountain, turn the tap, and you can get you a drink. Grandpa used to have to chisel the ice away before he'd get a drink.
Did you say to get on the freeway?
Yeah, turn around and go down the freeway.
How long did you live there in that home on the old? How old was you when you moved away from there?
We moved from there in 1916.
So you was 16 years of old, 16 or 17 when you
Yeah.
moved from there.
That's where Walt injured his back at thrashing time when he and Bill Morris and Earl Barker got to challenging each other about how much they could shoulder. And sacks then that they used to have was these seamless sacks would hold 2 full bushels of wheat, which would be 120 pounds in weight. And that's a lot of weight. And those kids was, at thrashing time, see how much they could lift over on their shoulder, and that's where my brother got his back put out. Whoa, 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 we've gone too far. Back up.
Back out.
Huh? Get on the freeway and back up.
Get off the dead edge here and just slowly go back.
Looking back and slow on the side here.
Don't get off too far off the edge there.
no,
Right where this fence is the dividing line between Rupp's and Harker's ground.
This one here?
This one right here.
There's the canal right there.
So you want me to stop?
Now you can stop right on the old canal here. Right here we were hauling hay, and it got late in the evening, and Walt had a date with his girl, and Father said, well, we got to get another load of hay in before we quit. And it was in the evening, and I guess it's 4:30 or 5 o'clock when we started to load that load of hay, which we got out of this field right where that big building is.
The American Express building.
Yes, this American Express, that's our farm. That's where our hay and our grain and everything was raised. And along this canal was the road to the barn. And along this south side of the canal was the road to the barn. And we was hauling this load of hay. And right where this bridge is, where we're stopped, was a wooden bridge across the canal. And we just got beyond that bridge when the load of hay tipped off of the wagon and into the canal. I fell down between the hay that stayed on the rack and that stayed into the 1 foot more than I'd went in the canal under the hay that went into the canal. I'd have never been here today if I'd have fell under that hay.
Was that was just all, was it just loose hay, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was all there was in those days. And it wedged against this bridge till it backed the water up and started running over the banks. we had to tear the bridge out to let the hay loose, and then Harv and Father and I and Walt pulled that hay out of the canal clear down here to Hemingway's, where the canal here crosses 3200 West. We pulled that hay out of the canal as we could with the pitchforks and that. Right here's where our swimming pool was. Off of this bridge is where we used to undress and put our clothes.
Swimming too.
Did skinny dipping?
Huh?
You went skinny dipping?
That was, we had nothing else. And when we went swimming, well, it was just the boys that would come, or else the girls, why, they'd have to come, and of course they'd put on something. But there was Clyde and Abe and Alvin and Lenwood and I and Vilas that had done our swimming right here in this canal. That's the dividing line of Harkers. The Harkers came over to here and then went down here, then out there across the canal again, then that way, and then out that way to 2700 West. Now let's go down to where it takes.
Who owns the old home there now?
Where?
Where you were raised? Do you know
Over here?
who? Yeah, who
I
owns
don't know who. I don't
You don't know whether Harkers still own that or not?
I don't know whether they do. I don't think they do. I think Cliff got rid of it.
Now do what? What do you want me to do now?
Take off down here at the you got to go clear down to 3500 south now. There, right up to there. And all of that ground down in below the canal, we couldn't farm because it was wet. Water was running out of it all the time, all summer and winter. Water would run off of that. Take me off round, going east here. John Hill.
John Hill and his son John D.
Well, John D. was his dad's name, John Hill.
Now where do we go?
Whoa, 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 whoa. Turn
Yeah,
here.
Yeah. Where are you going?
Turn.
Pull right in.
You're going too fast here.
Jaguar Lawn. That's where we got our carpet.
Stokes Brothers. That's where we got our computer.
Huh?
Stokes Brothers.
Now turn that, go up straight up here, and then stop this before you turn. Right where that white sign is. Stop there.
And this is 3500 south and 2200 west?
2200 west. Now this is where I had to come and get water. Right across the road over here was a schoolhouse where that building is. And in the corner right where that car is was a flowing well. And we had to come down, and two of us, it would take one to fill up the buckets and then hand them up to the other one to dump them in the barrel. And we'd fill our barrels, three barrels or 4 barrels at a time, and haul them clear from here up to where we lived. That's 1.5 miles down to get it and 1.5 miles back with it. And we got that out of here for several years until Uncle Charlie Todd drove a well farther up here and got a nice well, and then he made a pipe that went up from the plowing wheel up and over and down so that we could drive under it and fill it without having buckets. Now you can go up 2200 west here. Of course, this street is where we spent our lives, all our boyhood life, down this street here from one end of it to the other.
Where'd you climb the trees?
Huh?
Where did you climb the trees?
Where did you climb the tree?
Climb the trees. They was around every person's home. They were great big poplars. We used to go up there. We used to go climb the trees where the sparrows have their nests. Let's see, whoa, where are we going here? Yeah, go
This
slow here.
one does.
Now
Stop.
we've passed it.
This
passed
one,
it.
I was going to show you where we used to take our cows and take them back in where... Oh, no, we haven't, have we? No, we haven't. Right out in here, this was all wet country. Well, we used to have to stop before you get to this corner here. Right out where that Taylorsville elementary school is built is right in the middle of where there used to be just almost a pond of water. And this lane right where this
Where's
street
the
here was a
packet?
little lane that went down. We'd bring our cows down here in the morning before we went to school and turn them in here, and then at night when we get them, we'd have to roll our pants up above our knees and wade out through there and get the cows out of this wet place to bring them home. And we used to get barkers and rups and 2 or 3 that was along the street.
This is the street that you turn to go down to the to Valley Fair Mall now,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Grandma says there's a bucket there. You want to get out and get it?
This here ditch right here used to be the drain ditch, and into it used to be drains that the people had dug. Now up here where are we?
Ben who?
Huh?
Ben who?
Ben Rupp, Net.
Oh, that's way down there the other side, yeah.
Huh? Yeah, go ahead now.
Okay.
We're down here where
Oh
Todd.
yes, way up the road.
Okay, go.
Well, he's trying to get. Is there?
This is still wet.
Down there where that school is, huh?
Now go slow here. Go off at the side of the road.
Right here?
What was these people's name down here? Saxtons? Dextons?
Keep it going, don't stop yet. This pink house on the west side of the street here.
Pink?
On the east side of the street.
What pink?
Now it's right up here.
Edgar's house?
That one
Right
right
by it.
there.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
old.
that's where Edgar lived.
Yeah. Oh, this is Edgar's father's home. But this is where Uncle Charlie taught in that Letty. What was her name? But anyway, right back the corner there is where he drove that well and got that nice flowing well.
You can still see the
And-
pipe there.
and built a pipe up and over where we could,
Oh, I hate that.
and across the street is where Uncle George
He
Thaxton lived.
sent
That's
me
where
down
Walt,
to look
that's
at
where
it.
Walt Thaxton lives now, is that home
Right
right
there,
back there.
Used to carry the papers here when I was a kid.
And Edgar's now, he's built this home. Edgar built all of these
Getting
homes.
close.
And here Edgar built a home and then moved out of it. This is Parks. This
Oh yeah,
This
park.
lady here is President Wilford Woodruff's daughter that used to live in here. That's what was his name? Parks's wife. Rube Parks's wife was the daughter of the president of this church. Wilford Woodruff's daughter.
And I used to carry the paper to her. Remember,
You
deliver her
used
the
to
paper.
have
I remember
Julia
delivering her the paper.
for my
Okay, now you can go ahead.
Jewelry.
Julia.
But imagine
My
hauling our
doll.
water in the barrel.
Jewelry for your
You
doll.
wanted to
Yes.
drink, you got it out of a barrel or a bucket.
Jewelry. I mean, jewels.
That's the old Group
That's
Parks'
the old
home
home
right
there.
there.
Well, nobody lives in that, do they?
Yeah, well, yeah, the boy does.
Does he?
Boy, he is one boy. The old bachelor.
Now where do I go?
Straight up. No, let's turn here and go up Redwood. I told you everything along here. On this corner is the only home there. There wasn't a home on this over here. This was Uncle Dave farm, Uncle Dave Barker's farm.
This is 40,
Right down in there is where our ball field, our ball diamond used to be. And
4700
that's where
south.
we would collect on Sunday. I never went to church, never was inside of the church until I was 18 years
That's
of
where
age.
Gedges lived, right back there, isn't it, Daddy?
Huh?
That home where Gedges lived?
Yeah,
Bill and Rames Gedge?
yeah,
No, it was Bill. Rames lived down here on Redwood, didn't he?
yeah. But Bill, that's our Bill's,
Yeah.
his family. Now turn up Redwood
Now
here.
I know where we are.
Turn up.
Oh, you've been lost.
Yeah.
Sean, he didn't know where we were last night either when we came home till we got clear down to 48.
Where was you last night?
It was Friday night.
Where was you Friday night?
Parks and Gilbers. Now right in here, on this corner here, is Willard Barker. That's a brother to Uncle Dave. That's Uncle Dave is Abe's and Clyde's dad. And Willard was Dave's brother. He lived here, and this is the old Barker place. This is where, well over here and stuff.
Right here on the right here, just off the...
Now right here they've moved the home. Young Willard built a nice home right here. And now he's moved it up in here someplace and got this. But right back top of there was the old Willard father's and mother's home. I can see him now. He was stooped way over. He couldn't straighten up. He was so stooped over. And his wife was one of the kindest old ladies you ever met.
Was that little tiny red house that used to be right here?
No, it used to be a great big home.
Big home. Big two-story
Great
home.
two-story brick building. And then in front of that was this little story red one that Willard built that he has moved. And this whole quarter of a section was belonged to Willard Barker. And when he died, it was divided in that he had 2 boys and 2 girls. One of his girls was Will Morse's wife, and the other was Parks's wife. Each one of them got 40 acres. Dave Barker got the 40 over there where I showed you his farm was, and then the Parks got the 40 in between. Will Morris got the 40, next 40, that is Charlie Morris, and Willard Barker got the 40 on this with the home on it. And that came up to just across to where we crossed the canal here. Now if you go up to where we crossed the canal, then you'll stop again.
How you doing, Mom?
Now there was no homes along here at all. Willard Barker's was the only home down below the canal, where the canal crosses up here.
Still doing okay, Grandma?
Can't see where the canal is here now, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop right here on the canal now. Oh yeah, there's the old canal. Now that's where I used to have to walk to school. We'd come along here with the Barkers, walk along that road to here to Redwood Road, and then I started school way down where the polygamist lives on the hill. I used to go right down through the field here and come out of the school. We never rode. winter, summer or not, we'd walk through the snow here, clear up to our knees. This canal, sometimes we never knew where it was because the snow would blow the canal right in and fill it up. Cover up the fences, we never knew where the fences was. We'd have to walk through those fields here, and then we'd come over to here. And I went to school 1/2 of the year down at that old place, and then they came up to Plymouth on the corner up here where Plymouth is now, and I spent the rest of that year in the new building. 6 months or six, half of the year I went down there, half of the year I went up here. And then we came to here and walked up here. And we'd meet Mrs. Gage she brought the kids from down in Chesterfield in a wagon with a team of horses. And she was a widow woman, and she'd get up early in the morning and harness those horses, bring that wagon and gather up all the kids up to 4700 South, and they wouldn't let us get on here. We used to try to get onto that wagon and ride, but they'd whip us off with their buggy whip.
How old were you when you started school in Plymouth?
6 years old. I started school when I was 6. Uncle Dave didn't believe in his kids going to school that soon, so he kept them out till they were 7 years, and that's why I and Abe was in the same class together. Clyde was in the class below me, but we should have been in the same class because Abe was a year and a half older than I am. Clyde is only 6 months younger than I am. And this old canal is where we used to do our skating, as I tell you. We used to come up this canal and go clear on up
To where the falls are?
right here on this corner. There used to be a little home, little 2-story brick building that Will Morris, when he got married, he came and lived in it. Now, on we up Redwood Road, there was one home across the road was the Williams home. That was Ezra Williams. And that's been tore down. You can go now, Darren, and I'll show you where these homes was.
That's about where
There was this little home here, was the only home here, and then 2 more on this street up here till we get to the corner. Right in there, right back in here was where Ezra, right back in there is
What
where.
about that one right there, that home there?
Oh, there was an old.
Oh, well, that home there was Charles Barker's.
There was that old yellow brick
Williams'
house.
home was right next to it, wasn't it?
Williams's home was north of it.
Yeah, and that's where
That's where
Wendell,
Merv.
where
That's-
Merv Pendleton and Merv Johnson. What was her name? Edith Johnson.
They built their homes on the ground in front of the old building. Pearl lived in the old home until
Pearl.
she got married, and then when she got married, they tore the building down and built these things in here. Now, where the school is here used to be a home that was owned by Panders. Panders was. Let me tell you a little story about the Pander family. Pander family, he was quite a funny old gentleman, but he had 5 boys and 1 girl. There was Harold was the oldest, and then Bertha was the next, then Lynn, then twins, Lloyd and Clyde, and then Lewis. Lewis was the same age as I was. And the year that we started school and went up here, at the half a year, we met right here. Lewis told his dad he wasn't going to go to school that day, and his dad says he was. And so his dad got his buggy whip, and he whipped that kid every step he took, right from the front door of this house out onto the street, and every step he took right to the back door of the schoolhouse, and whipped him until he went in the back door of the schoolhouse. And we was right behind him, Abe and Clyde and I, and it was one cold day. And the funny thing about it, when we got to school that morning, it was so cold, it had froze the heating up in the school broke the pipes because the pipes was water heated, run around the walls in the rooms. And it froze up the pipes and broke the pipes, and they had to let school out after Lewis. And on the way to school, there was a teacher that lived in the big home down on the hill where Vern Jensen's lives now. The teacher lived there, and he's on his way to school, and as he was just coming out right where Virgil Stedman lives now, he fell dead with a heart attack. Now there was the Panther home here, and a little farther up here was Deverell's home.
Is the Panther home where Finlaysons lived for a while? Wasn't that the Finlayson home was here
no,
too?
not in that big home. That Finlayson home was a great big swell two-story building. No, it was tore down and it was just a little shack. All of these homes there was just more or less little shacks.
Many good times in that.
Now, if you stop right here in front of this blacksmith shop, we used to call it, and right here is where the Deverells lived. Deverell's home is right where that home was.
Where the duplexes are, where the apartments are.
Where that big home was there. And Will Deverell had a shop where this is, and he done the blacksmithing for the town here. He done the horseshoe, the pushing horseshoes, and they used to sharpen the plow points. And that was about all that he ever did was shoe horses. And well, he made wheels for the steel wheels to put on the wagons and fit them on. And in that was when Will died, then Jim Rapp and Will, well, there was Will Deverell, and Jim Rapp used to operate, and when Jim went into here, he brought in the cars and repaired the old cars, Ford cars.
That was more up on the corner. That was on another place here.
Yeah, and that farther on that was the Bringhurst home. And President Hugh B. Brown lived in that home at one time.
I didn't know that. Let's go.
He didn't live there very long, just a few months, and he moved again.
Now you're talking about the home on the other side of 47th here?
No, the home was
one on
right
this
in
side.
here.
One on this side was the old Peterson home, right?
Yeah, that big story, two-story building. It finally belonged to Peterson when they tore it down. And that's where a fellow by the name of Benyon lived. He used to work and drive a team of horses for the brickyard.
No, but that's where Ron Burroughs lived when he was a kid.
I can't think of, they called him Red Benyon. He had red hair. He was a little place. And he drove his team of horses from here up to the brickyard, clear up there where the brickyard is on 33rd and 9th East.
The Brickyard Plaza is
Go
now.
slow along here. Pull over and go right slow along the street. Right in here was where another home was that Joe Bringhurst lived in. And that was the only home here up to the corner where Joe Lindsay lived.
And that's where.
Now stop here.
This is
Here's where the home was. Here's where the home was built that we showed you down there. Right here on this corner here. This is where Sam Lindsay built his home. Across over on the other corner was Joe Lindsay's home. That was a great big home. And then next to that was the store. Do you remember the store?
Kids don't.
Yes,
I remember the store. Old Taylorsville Merc.
Taylorsville Merc. And
Right where.
that was ran by. Pull on that a little farther.
To stay on the side here.
It was run by Joe Benyon.
No, before that it was this. Now back in here. Now I came up here. I had an Oldsmobile one time, and I let somebody take it. And brought it back without any brakes in it. And I came up here one day, and Linwood, and we ran into a herd of sheep right here in that car and ran over them. Ran right through the herd of sheep with that car because we didn't have any brakes. Oh, did we get the devil. I think we killed 2 or 3 sheep, and I had to go across the street and head out through here and had to stop the car way back out here in the field is where the car stopped. Back of the old home that used to be here. And that was where Sam Lindsay's folks, that's where Sam's folk was. That's Edgar and Sam, and his family was raised. Their name was Joe Lindsay. And then beyond that was the store. Right there was the big store, and that was run by Sam Lindsay. And Sam Lindsay was the bishop of the Taylorsville Ward too. And he and a fellow by the name of what was his name? Was interested in the store out in Magna, the 2 of them. And they ran this one and that one. And then they went into Sam Lindsay went in and got the dealership for the Ford. And he was the dealership right here, and in that store he built a lean-to on that side, and that's where he had his Ford cars, the old Model 8A, Model B, Model A Ford cars. And I worked for a fellow by the name of Miller, was a salesman, and I was a salesman for a few weeks, and I couldn't sell any cars, and I quit.
Larry, you know the old home that was right next to the store where Ken Sampson lived?
Ben Sampson's home was right next to this store, and that's where he was the clerk in the store. And then Ada Bringhurst from Benyon was the lady clerk. She took care of the dress department in the store, and Ben took care of the grocery parts. Yes, the big store was divided. Half of it was in a grocery, and half of it was in dry goods, clothing and stuff like that. And Ben took care of the grocery, and then on that other side of that was where they built the part that took care of it was wagons and things like that until they got the dealership for the Ford company. And then they took the dealership over in Murray, and that's where Ivan was for years and years, worked for Sam Lindsay as his clerk.
Nowhere.
Down there, down 48, there was no homes up
Well, if you
Redwood.
can get across there, Darren.
There was the only, there was the Sam Lindsay's home, or June Lindsay's home was up here. He built a big one, and then beyond that was Ben Sampson was first, and then June built the big one. Then there wasn't a home until you got down on the corner, and that was where Ira Mackey lived. Mm-hmm. On this corner was a home here.
Right here, dear.
And this is where it was rented out, and this is where Merrill Pixton lived. And then right in here, go slow a little bit, right in here Ray Pixton built a store, a meat market. And he built this, and this is where his meat market was, right here where that store is. And then Gene Paxton, he was the butcher for the Ray Pixton store, and Gene Paxton built this home right there.
That's Mullen Baxter lived in, huh?
There where Mill and Baxter, that used to be. And he was living there, and when we moved out of the way down there, we moved into a home down here where they've taken it down. But we was ashamed to go to church or see anything, so we would hide around home until Sunday school started. Then Linwood and I would come out and go back down into the territory where we was raised, back down into Barker's. And one morning coming along here, Gene's chickens was out here in the road, and so Linwood and I thought, well, we'll have a little fun with the chickens, so we started throwing rocks at the chickens. And Gene saw us. Now, Gene, he came out with his pocket full of rocks, and he pelted us with those rocks and says, how would you like to be a chicken? I can see Gene now. I've told Gene about that time and time again, how he held rocks at Linwood and I had told us how you like to be like a chicken.
There, and that's Grandpa Gene Paxton that lived down in the old house on the,
Now go down and I'll show
you know where I mean? Before he died. That's who they're talking
the
about.
home that we moved in when we moved from down out of that home down there on the bank of the canal. It was down here on the bank of the canal. It used to be Ben Harker's home. And just after we got here, Ben was a motorcycle man.
You lived in that house right there.
That was a Pixton, not Willard. Willard's brother. Oh, what was his first name? That's one of the old homes. That Pixton home here was only one. Now right here, right there was.
No bridge.
That old home where Jacksons lived is where Mom and I lived the first days of our married life.
Which home?
Jackson.
Where
right
Jacksons
next to
lived.
Della.
The other side of our building.
And Grandma Brown used to take it, the diapers and put her on the stove.
Don't go yet.
Let them dry out without him washing them.
Let them dry out.
Without washing them.
Oh. Is that where you lived when Leland was born?
Yeah.
Yeah, we moved from there upstairs in the apartment of Grandma's home. That was our second home. And that's where we lived when I was operated on for appendicitis. In this canal here is where I used to get the ice off of the canal to put in the old shack that we had, and we kept ice all summer line that we got off of the canal. I used to cut it out of here in chunks that would be 14 and 15 inches thick and a foot or a thing and about 3 or 4 feet long. Big chunks, and we'd cut it out, and then we used to put it in a building over here and put sawdust around it, which would keep it all summer long.
And that was your ice house, huh?
That was our ice house.
And what?
And then after we moved from on the top of this home here, then we moved down the road here to where Clyde Barker's living.
Okay. You moved from here to Clyde Barker.
No, we didn't. We lived at David Frame's.
That was after. We lived at David's when we moved out of there up to where we're living now.
So you went from Clyde Barker to David Frames to...
Well, no, we moved to another home down there. We lived in both of those homes at Clyde's.
David
The one on
Frames.
this
Which
side
one's
is
that?
where Belleville was born. And we was on our way to the hospital with Mom to take Mom to them, and she had the baby right there in front of the house before we got even.
That was Belva, huh?
Yeah.
Which one's David Frames?
Whoa, pull over here. David's home used to be back, we've
Where the
gone
church-
past it.
Where the church is.
David's home used to be back here where the church is. They tore it down to build the church.
And you lived in that house?
We lived in that house. After we moved out of the home where Clyde's living now, then we moved into the home the other side of it, which belonged to Clyde too. And that's where, after that, that's where Ayers lived. Jack Ayer and that family. And then we moved from there up to this home here.
Is that
which
still
was-
going?
Up to this home here, which was tore down to build the church.
Yeah.
And that's where we raised the sheep and that for the kids to raise their black face sheep that they took to fair. And that's where Leland raised his sheep to make lived is built out of the old store that Joe Benyon used to operate and own right where this store is, where this home is. Bessie Gerard that lived in the home where they tore down, where we lived, used to be the clerk in it. And then a fellow by the name of Carlson came and built a home, the home next, not this one here. Muir's built this one, but the next one there where Glenn Moore's living is the one that Larson built.
Who?
Fellow by the name of Larson.
Larson.
Bertha Brady's. She was a Larson. You remember that bring a Brady's? Don't you know Brady's?
I know the Brady's, yeah.
Well, Brady's, she was a Larson. And there was her and the two brothers. And they lived and they built that home right there where Glenn Morris, of course that was they remodeled that.
Go.
And then the other homes, go on, and the other home that was on down, this was in, well, let me tell you about this home across the road.
Here, yeah.
This was the Hiram Benion's home. It burnt down, and I can see it afire now. We were here when saw it burn down. And I worked with the Frame brothers when we rebuilt that home back up. Right there. I mixed the mortar and hauled the brick to the bricklayers that rebuilt that home. The other home, this home out here, these are homes that was built by Hiram. Hiram used to live up the street where we live, right across the road from us. And this is where he built when he moved from there. He built this home. Joe Belgian built that next home. And then the next one is where Henry Harker built. That's the
Abe's
father
house?
of, go on.
Is that Abe's house you're talking about?
Yes. That's Elsie's father. She was a Harker. And he built that home, and then he couldn't make a payment for it, and he was going to lose it, so Abe borrowed the money from Tom Gerard and bought that home, and that's where Abe has lived all his life. He's never been in another home but that home right there.
Since he got married.
Yes, since he got married, all of his married life. This home right here was one of the old homes that Heber Benyon lived in when he moved from the territory down where his big home was down there. And then they built the little home here where Fred lived, the next one. And this is where Heber's daughter lived. That was Mary, the Powells. You remember the Powells? Mm-hmm. Well, that's where they lived. And then Fred came and lived in this home. He lived out in Granger, and then when he moved from Granger, he moved into this home that was lived in by Johnson, that bought the home that we lived in. The old home on the corner is the only home that Father and Mother ever owned, called their own. And that's where I came back to when I came from my mission, was there. They bought that home when I was in the mission field.
That house right there?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
Neither did I.
Dear. You didn't know that?
Neither did I.
Well, I'm glad we did it because they told
This home right here is where Belva was born, on the way out of the house into
That
the
one or
car.
that one?
Right.
Both. This one here,
Right.
first one.
Right.
First one right here. And then Mom and I lived in this half of this one right here. And then we moved from there up to the home where they tore it down to build the church. These homes wasn't in here. Father bought this, he owned this home and this ground and the 4 acres above where the duplexes is. That was his farm, and when he died, I was made the administrator of it, and I was like a crazy nut. Rather than cause any trouble with my brothers and sisters, we sold it and divided the money, and I've regretted ever since that I sold that.
So have I.
Didn't keep that ground. But anyway, it wasn't worth it to have any trouble, and so we got rid of it and divided the money between the
$200.
we didn't get only a few dollars. Well, that was the same thing with with Grandma Brown's home over on State Street in 6400 South. When she died, they didn't have it anything done with it, and it went into the dealer's ownership under the care of the lawyers, and before they got through with it, all they got out of it was $600 apiece. The lawyers got all the rest of it.
Well, you moved from up to where Dave Frame home then, up to where you're at now.
Where we're at.
Pull it, Sean.
All right,
Yeah.
take
Pull
us
up to
home.
pull up to this one on the corner. There's Abe now making these morning rounds. Right here. Did you know that, Sean? That this is where?
Yeah, Paul, stop right here. Huh? Let me tell you a little interesting story that I've had chucked in my craw all of my life.
Shingleton.
This home was owned by Cooks, a fellow by the name of Cook, and he was the mother of Mabel Cook, which was the teacher, the old maid teacher that was a teacher that taught me at the Plymouth School. And her sister was Eve Gerard's wife. They lived in that big two-story home up here where Dave Pearson's lives now. And that was a home that the Gerards was lived in, and that was where I got real acquainted with the Gerards and the Cooks. Well, Cooks wanted their yard dug up here, and he hired me to dig his yard. And I spaded up his yard with my hand with a shovel. And when I got through, he come and told me that was the best job he'd ever saw done by a boy in his life. He complimented me so good that I never forgot what he told me.
And that was the guy that lived in the home there. When did your Mom and Dad, you was 16 years of age when you moved into this home?
No, not this one, that one up there.
Then you
Where
went
they
on
were
a
down.
mission.
That's where Father was living when I went on a mission. This is where they were living when I came back from the mission.
Now where now again? I missed the home then. Which home did you moved from the old one on the canal there?
Yeah, and the one that's tore down where Wayne Player's home is now.
Oh yeah.
Was it the home that Wayne Player first bought? Is that the home you
Yeah.
lived in?
Yeah, he tore it down here just
Where
not long
Marilyn
ago.
and all of them
Yeah,
lived.
that
The
was
pink
the old.
house.
Yeah, the old two.
Who lived there when I was a young boy? What was their names?
The pink house, the old pink house. I remember that house.
What?
Who lived there when I was a kid?
Before Wayne Player bought it.
Before Wayne Player bought it.
Who lived in that home? I don't know who lived there after we moved out.
Gladys, somebody.
It belonged to
Gladys
it belonged to
Gerard.
Ben Harker. See, Father was only living there, and that belonged to Ben Harker. And Ben Harker, as I tell you, was a motorcycle man, and he got killed on his motorcycle. He ran into something and got killed on his motorcycle. And then he got rid of it, and when he got rid of it and sold it, and I think it was Leonard Mackey that bought the farm, and there's where Leonard Mackey lived until he built the home up on Redwood Road.
Well, then how old was you? You was on your mission when they bought this home.
I was on my mission when they bought this home. And I went on my mission when I was 19 years, stayed in the mission 29 months and come back. I went in November and came back in March.
2.5 years, almost
Went out
3.
in 1919 and came back in 1922.
This is at 1250 West, 4800 South.
Yeah, I have lots of memories in this home. With
Now
Grandma and
another
Grandpa
little
Brown.
story right here. I hated Brother William, Brother Haig like you great hate a rattlesnake. He never met me, but what he didn't say, Cloyd, why wasn't you to deacon's meeting? Why wasn't you to church? Why didn't you come to, he was the teacher of the deacon's corps. And he tried to get me to come to deacons, and I was living way down there, Barker's, and we never went to church. We spent our time in there. Well, when we moved back out in here, like I told you, we were so ashamed to have anybody see. Linwood and I would wait in the, till Sunday school was started, and then we'd go back in. Well, one time, Brother Haig was our home teacher, and he came to our place as a home teacher, and he gave us the law. And boy, did he lay down the law to us. And then's when I started turning my ways. And not only that, there was so many things that happened just at the same time. Earl Barker was one of the most talented men in the ward, and he used to have charge of the plays. He and Vince Bennion and Leonard Mackey, Laverne Jones and Elsie Harker or Elsie Gerard could put on a play without even having a book to make. They could make it up as they went along, and it was good. You just had the audience cracking from their sides, and Earl Barker got me to be in one of those shows. Those shows was the means of the ward raising their finances to finance their ward. And we used to take that show to every ward in the state, from the Oakwood Mountains to the Wasatch. Every ward between Granite State and the Jordan State. That was over in every ward over where all of the Cottonwood wards are where all of the Holiday wards, where all of the Norrie wards are, where all of the Granger wards are, where all of the Bennion wards are. That was the territory that we had. And we went to every one of those wards with this show. And that's where I got to turn my ways. I used to think these guys down here was the most stuck-up kids that was ever born. And I would have nothing to do with them. Well, when Earl got me into that play, it was in with these guys that I thought was the stuck-up. Leonard Gerard, Ivan Frame, Melvin Frame, Wally Frame, and Gerard. And I got acquainted with those, and that's when I thought it wasn't them, it was me that was wrong. And so I started to go to church. And Hiram Bennion was the member of the bishopric that had the priest quorum. Victor Williams was the teacher of the priest quorum. David Frame was the secretary of the priest quorum. And they came to me and said, Cloyd, if you'll come to church, we won't ask you to do a thing.
So he did go to church.
So I started to go to church. I never missed ministering to sacrament. I don't think it a Sunday. One day I just had a desire. I wanted to go on a mission. And so I went, got out of the priesthood meeting, and we lived right across the street here. And no, but we lived up in that other place. I went to my bedroom and got down on my knees. The first time that I'd ever prayed in my life to ask the Lord if I could go on a mission. 2 weeks after that, Archie Frame got up in the sacrament meeting and said, Cloyd, we want to meet you in the back room after sacrament meeting.
Who? Oh, Archie Frame.
He was taking charge of the meeting. He was the counselor with Hiram Benny was the bishop, and Sam Lindsay was the counselor. And they asked me, and I knew just before they ever said another word to me what it was for, that they was going to ask me to go on a mission. So I went home and told my dad and ma that they'd asked me to go on a mission and asked them what they thought it was. And I thought, Father didn't have anything. It took all of his money to take care of Walt in his sickness. The only money that I had was what Linwood and I, we worked together with Father on the farm, and Father gave us our portion of what we had raised, and I had $900 saved, and that's what I spent to keep me on the mission. I spent $900 and some dollars is all it cost me in 29 months on the mission.
900?
900 and some dollars. And from this building I went up, and that's where I got down on my knees and asked the Lord if I could go on a mission.
Well, who went on missions besides you? Did Linwood go on a mission?
No.
Is you the only one then, huh?
I was the first one of the Todd generation to go on a mission.
Is that right?
Well, the second, Uncle Charlie Todd, that was Father's brother. He was getting called on a mission, and he was only about part of his time, and he took pneumonia, and he was so sick they had to send him home, and they released him. He only spent half of his mission in the field. That's Uncle Charlie, and that was some time before. But I was the first one of the Todd generation that was called on a mission.
Now that was your mother's brother.
Yeah, that was my mother's brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
The Thaxtons and the Todds and the Mackeys.
They didn't believe in helping you.
Fred Barker was the next one. He was the next one after me. He went on a mission after I did. He was out. We were out in the field the same time together. He was in the Northwest and I was in the Southern states. And that good old Brother Haig lived in that White House right over there. He had 2 wives. One of his wives lived in that house, and one lived in the little home here. They remodeled it.
The little one?
Yeah, the little home here on the side. That's where one of his wives lived, and then another thing here's where Willard Pixton lived. That was the father of Hazel Pixton.
Just putting it up, yeah.
Right in the White House there, that was Webster's home. That's where Virgil lives now.
And this is where the school was?
This is where the school was, over here on the corner. Of course, it was way down on the side of the hill, but it was on this corner where the polygamist lives. And this is where the school teacher was when he was boarding in this home in Amos Marsden. And right in there is where he fell dead. Right on his way out there on the way to school. Amos Marsden built this big home here.
Where Jensen's lived?
Yes. Mandels lived in the home down here where they tore it down where Alvin Tolman's lives. Yeah. And then this is another of the Mandels. This is the brother of them. This is the Clyde Mandels. This is another Marsden. This is Amos Marsden. This is Clyde Marsden. Now Clyde Marsden lived in the home next to us, where Roberts lives now. And he was living there when it burnt down. Clyde was living in that home there. This used to be the old tithing yard right here again. Another interesting thing on this yard. This is where they used to bring their, if you paid tithing in kind, this is where they brought it. To this place right here, and they used to have the tithing yard, and a fellow took care of the materials that was brought, the hay and the grain and whatnot was brought here and distributed to the people in the ward that needed the fast offerings.
And this is 1130 west and 4910 south.
That's where Leon Jensen lives.
Yes. Leon lived in the new home on the corner.
Shingle, aluminum.
None of these homes were here. There was the home on the corner that Mantellas lived in. None of these homes were in here.
Glenski's.
This one here was here. This is where Beelers lived.
Yep.
This is the old Beeler home
I
here.
used to love to deliver the papers there because she'd always give me a cookie or something.
I didn't know these homes over here.
This home here on the corner was Hiram Benion's home. That's
What?
Hiram Benion built this home.
What, where Giles lived?
Yes, right here.
Loretta Foote.
And then he
Felix
built the one
DeCleva.
down there when he moved from here. The only homes along this street then was this one here where Leonard Gerard's dad lived. He lived there, and Benion lived here. He was a half-brother to Hiram. And then Dave Benion lived in this home that I live in, which was a half-brother to Hiram.
I used to call this Gerard Street.
Yeah, Gerard's brothers built these three homes. That one and this one and this one right here.
Free.
And then this home next to me was built by old man Swenson. That's Swenson's.
Oswald.
That's where Rail and all of them grew up, in that house.
You hear that, Daddy? Is that where Rail and Oz and them grew up over there in
Yeah,
town?
yeah. Well, no, they were raised out in the
Basin
basin. They moved in here. That's where they moved into.
when they came.
And that's where he got jealous of me when
Let us out.
Don't cut you.
I know.
I think you better well out before you get in there.
That's where he got jealous of you, what?
Because I got such a good garden and he couldn't. He come in from the basin out there and he cultivated his garden with an old potato cultivator with a horse, drawn with a horse that had to have the rows planted that far apart.
Get out.
Well, her uncle gave me that Planet Junior that's in the garage here.
Yeah?
And I planted the rows 22 inches apart.
Get that down.
It's down.
And I had such a good garden that he couldn't stand to see it. And he done everything in the world to destroy my garden. He wouldn't leave, he tried to keep the water from me. He threw all of his garbage over in my yard. He threw all the garbage he could find in my driveway. He plowed in my ditch, always did. I used to have such a battle with that Swenson family all the time until they grew up. And then we got pretty good friends.
Hold her up, Grandma. I mean, Sean.
I forgive them of all they done, and Rel and I was then in the bishopric, and that youngest girl, why, she come and throws her arms around me every time she sees me.
Who's that? Yeah, that's, what's her name?
Nola.
Nola.
I don't know what her name is now. She's married.
She's married again. I know, she asks me about you every time I see her, too. You and Mom.
Yeah, she's her
Nola.
Nola, yeah. Her sister tramped all of my melons one year to Maston. Got in my melon patch right outside of the house and just tramped every one of them.
I didn't know that.
Around the yard and fell down dead.
I remember that. I remember that. Out of that horse that he caught, he and Billy Bing.
Yeah, they bought it when they got out of our army. Him and Billy went someplace away and bought a horse. And he had a colt, and the colt was running around down there in the corral and blasted the bed vessel and fell down and died. And oh, did Leland. He just cried and cried, so did Mom. There's where we used to have the sheep, the black-faced sheep. They won their prizes in the fairs. They won their money. I used to have this whole yard in garden when the kids were home. All of this where the lawn is.
The key.
This whole building.
What's this for?
That's for the gas that kid bought.
Oh, you. I don't want it either.
Give it to me.
Here's where it is.
That the only thing worth living in this life is the gospel. nothing in this world. Money can't buy everything. If you've got a testimony of the gospel, that's the only thing that matters, kids. So don't forget it. Time I've spent in the church.
Too bad we didn't have,
I guess I've been in about every organization except Sunday school. I never was in the Sunday school. I was in everything in Mutual. I started out as a counselor to David Benyon when I came from the mission. And David lived in this house. And then when he died, then Brother Tamander was the president, and I was a counselor to him. And then they took me in the stake from there. No, I was put in the president of the Mutual in the ward.
Your head's up.
And Laverne was the president of the young ladies. And my counselors used to be Willis Phillips and Arthur Gamaki. Can't think of their last name. They lived up where Jackson's lives now.
Commander.
Huh?
Commander?
No.
Before then.
Uh-huh. And then they released me and put me in the junior president of the 70s Corps. And then I went right on up to the top to the senior president, and then they put me in the State Mutual.
Been a Mutual all your life too.
And then when I was released from the State Mutual, Brother Tamander died, and poor Bishop Barker was in a terrible mess. He never could make a thing out right. And every report he sent into the PBO after Brother Tamander died until I took over wasn't right. I went to him, Brother, Abe, if you let me get rid of this dirty janitor's job, I'll be your ward clerk. The darn stinker put me in both of them. Gave me the ward job and the ward clerk, and I was the ward clerk for 10 years. And out of that 10 years, I never had one mistake.
Well, I never had any mistakes. I was school, and now I can't keep it.
Now you can't figure anything out, huh?
No, can't figure out anything.
What were all the jobs you held to make a living?
In a tough old hole. When we lived in the home down there where Jackson's is, when we were first married, I had a job for Sam Smith. I had to walk from there every night, morning, go out and walk up to the farm, and I did the farming for Sam Smith while he went to school. He was a teacher at the university and went to school. And I worked on that farm for 2 years until I was working on that farm when a fellow by the name of what's the that big moving van, Mullerup. Mullerup come and got me to be an agent for the Metropolitan Life. And that's where I was an agent for Metropolitan Life for 10 years until 1932 when the Depression came on, and I had to give it up because I wasn't going to do the dirty work that the assistant managers wanted me to go out and tell lies and misrepresent the insurance, and I quit. And then I had a hard time from then on. Then when the work came, government came in, that's when the government saved our home from being lost, and I worked for PWA, it was called then. I took Grandpa Jones' team of horses and wagon and haul dirt down on 48 South down to make a walkway, a sidewalk down below the hill, from there down against in front of where Ty's lives now. And then we lived and then when I quit the Metropolitan, I was the janitor of the ward.
We paid the hospital bill was $79 when Claire was born. And we paid it all in one lump sum.
Then when I went from Sam Smith's into the insurance, then I quit the insurance. It was a hard time, and then insurance, I got the ward job, the janitor of the ward down here. And then when that got well, it wasn't paying enough, then I had the two jobs. Brother Wilson gave up the water job, and Hiram Benyon got me to take care of the West Side Water. And I took care of the West Side Water in the ward house for quite some time, for about 5 or 6 years, until I went to Babe and told him I couldn't take care of the ward house anymore, and I gave it up and was then I was paid by the West Side Water, not very much, but it was enough to keep us alive. And out of that, when they let me out, I thought it was one of the most mean things that they could do, to let me out of the West Side Water when they done it. And they had never given me a vacation or anything like that. And I told them when they let me out that I thought they ought to at least allow me something. Well, they got together and they finally allowed us, what was it, $3,000 and some dollars as a bonus when they let me out of the West Side Water. And I took and put that in the savings account with Mom. She had started savings, and that's where our savings started, that we've made now, that we've got a real savings account. We just got too much of it, that's all.
Well, then you better get it spent.
Well, we bought that car.
Yeah, I thought, well, that's a place to get rid of some of it, but that didn't make a dent. I remember legs are more than, oh, look what that poor Ralph, look what that poor Ralph Flair and Ralph Blake's had to do since I left.
Yeah, and then you had at least you had Brown Tie Plumbing and Heating to fall back on when they let you go.
That was just a,
Well, I know, but it was something to do.
yeah. Yeah, and I was over there 9 years, relieving in Laurel.
This recording was made April 1st, 1984. It was made while Larry Brown's family was traveling around Taylorsville with Grandma and Grandpa Brown, where he told us about all the events that had taken place in his life, showing us the homes that he lived in and the different parts of Taylorsville that have made up so much of his life. Just to clarify where some of these homes were that Grandpa lived in, for those that might be interested who will be listening to this in the future. The home Grandpa Brown was born in was located on 4315 South, 2700 West. It is now been torn down, and the building occupying this land is the American Express Company. The home that he grew up in from the time he was 5 years old until age 16 was located about 4366 South, 2200 West. It was on the south side of the West Jordan Canal, and at this time was still standing. They then moved to a home that was located at 1435 West, 4800 South. They lived in is no longer standing. A new one has been built in its place and is owned by Wayne and Mary Player. The final home that he lived in with his parents was located at 1255 West, 4800 South. This is the home where his parents were living at the time of their deaths. The first home that Gladys and Cloyd Brown had after their marriage was located at 1540 West, 4800 South. Their second home was an apartment on the second floor of David and Clara Jones, Grandpa and Grandpa Jones's home at 1488 West, 4800 South. They then moved further down the street to 1288 West, 4800 South, which is now the home of Clyde Barker. They then moved next door for a short period to 1284 West, 4800 South. After this, they moved to a home that was located at 1399 West, 4800 South. This is the home that is known as Dave Frame's home that was later torn down in order to build the Taylorsville Stake Center, which now occupies that land. Finally, they were able to purchase a home on 4946 South, 1250 West, and it is here that they are living at the present time.